Hey everyone, I haven't seen you all in a while. Just really busy and just a bunch. I haven't been feeling the best, I'll be honest. But that doesn't change the fact that a new set is coming out this week. And at first, this set looked pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie. This set was like, ugh. What? Another. How do you say it? I don't know how you say it. But as the set got released, it looks like more of the stuff became cooler. And we actually have a pretty interesting set going forward. So we're going to get into it. A bunch of old stuff got buffed. Old favorites, old meme decks now have become good decks. And that's that. So just a precursor to everything. Like always, these are preliminary decks. I am sure by 2 days later, you might find even better builds. But this is just a good place to start off with if you just have no idea what's going on. Some of the stuff that you can see are like triggers. These can easily be changed. I run draws most of the time in my 3 slot, but you can easily change that to a front trigger and not feel too bad. Also, the Regulus piece, it can generally be anything you choose that you feel like is the most impactful in the current meta. A lot of the times, I just pick this one, the PR, because it's just so useful for everything, and a lot of these decks do force you to want to play normal orders every single turn. So running the Blitz orders are pretty much where it is, I think. But then you have the new Protection Twin Cast that is also okay too, so you can run that Blitz order instead. You also have the Evergreen Blitz order that works too. So a lot of choices. There's still a lot of choices. You're not just limited to what I'm telling you to play, right? So with that, let's kind of get started. Some of these decks also, for example, Shoujo Doji will be the first deck that we're looking at. These are older decks that gotten buffed, so I'm generally just going to go through a lot of the new changes that it has. I'm not really going to worry about the old stuff and just the overall game plan regarding them, right? So let's get started. First off, like I mentioned, is Shoujo Doji. We're starting off strong. This deck actually seems pretty good, and a lot of people have looked at it and went, wow, Shoujo Doji went from meme world-winning deck into an actual, maybe a high-tier deck that has the potential to win another Worlds, right? What are the changes? So first off, remember, Shoujo Doji's gimmick back then is pretty garbage in that the grade 3 just straight up sucks, but when certain situations arise, it became a really strong deck. But let's kind of look at what it does now. So first off, this card's name is called a Shoujo Doji. It's just like, it's the same thing as old Shoujo Doji, I'm pretty sure. The second skill is Energy Blast 3, and then pick 3 units with Soul, Stealth in their card name from your Soul and bind them. And then you pick 2 cards on the Regard Circle, on your opponent's Regard Circle, and then you bind them. And then your opponent picks 1 card from the hand, and it binds them, and at the end of turn, they all go back to their hand. So obviously, when you're playing Shoujo Doji, though, those cards aren't all going back to their hand. And then the third effect is that when it attacks, or when it gets attacked, so very important, pick 2 of your Regards and put them into Soul, and then pick, in your bind zone, up to 2 cards with Stealth in their card's name, and call it on the front and the back row. And, if it's your opponent's battle phase, though, you don't call them in the Regard Circle, just call them to the Guardian Circle. So, from this skill, you basically can make a straight-up 4th attack like this. And also, when you get attacked, you can guard with cards in the bind zone, right? But remember, you do have this old card as well, this PR, where it can call itself out into an empty circle, empty Regard Circle, when you've sucked in 2 cards from your Regard Circle into Soul. So that's how you actually make 5 attacks. You try and clean up your board in any way possible, and then you will suck in with the Shoujo Doji effect, and then you'll call this out and you have 5 attacks. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Some of the new cards that have really changed the game is this card. This basically puts a bunch of old cards that you would want to put into your deck, but now it's all combined into 1 card, right? So when this card comes in the Regard Circle, the top 5 cards of your deck can grab a Stealth, and then put it into your Soul. And then if your opponent is grade 3 or higher, you get 5k. So nice, it hits 15k. But then, in the battle phase, if this card goes from the Regard into your Soul, you counterblast 1, you pick 2 of your opponent's face-up cards in their bind zone, and then you put them into the drop, and then you get red text. All your front row units get plus 5k. So that's pretty good, right? You're making multi-attacks. The cards that come out get more power. You get rid of your opponent's cards. Pretty good skill to have, yeah? So that's one of the new ones. Also, this card is new, so just when it boosts, at the end of the battle that it boosted something, if your Vanguard is Shoujo Doji grade 3 or higher, you can put this unit and the card in the same column as this that has Stealth in the card name, the Regard, into your Soul, and then you pick a card that is grade 2 or higher in your drop zone with Stealth in its name, and you add it to your hand. So you can add things like your Persona Rides and things like that, but generally, it just clears up the Soul. And the rest of it's just old cards. This one can countercharge, and it can bind itself in guard from the bind zone, so very nice. But yeah, it empties its board for you. This one, when things come out, it kind of empties itself, right? Puts it into the soul and you get to draw a card, but again, it empties, so you can make empty slots for Mr. What's his name? Tsukuyodachi? Tsukuyodachi, right? So nice. Just make multi-attacks like that, and the rest of it is just that, right? They're all stealth units. One random tech here, so you can just Soul Blast 1 on attack and just kill one of your opponent's bind zone cards, so very nice. Also cool against Mygo, but yeah, that's that. But that's pretty much the Shoujo Doji deck. It looks very, very strong. A lot of people have been testing it out, I think, so it should be interesting to see what happens to this deck. Next we have is Koti Blaze. Not a huge fan of this deck. It might have some potential, but it just feels like a very low effort. Do I want to say it like that? Low effort ride line on Bushiroad's side. This is from the manga. It's like one of those ride line mangas. Ride lines from the manga, but the other one looks way better. Just spoilers. But that may be a personal preference. Just look at this ride line. They don't even look like they want to be there. But let's not diss this ride line chart. It could be really good. Right, we don't know. First up, we have Koti Blaze. Let's just see what this deck does. First skill is axe once per turn. Counterblast 1. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and pick 2 different named grade 3 or lower units. And then you call 1 and then put the rest into your soul. Or you call up to 1, and then you can put the rest into your soul, because you might be full, right? And the second skill is that when this unit attacks, you can activate one of the below skills. The first one is Soul Blast 2, and then for each of the cards that you Soul Blasted, you can stand a regard that has the same card name as you Soul Blasted. So, for example, if you Soul Blasted like a card named, I don't know, a Unica and Kai, right? You can stand 2 of your regards. Well, you can stand your regard that has like one regard that has a Unica and one regard that has a Kai. So that's cool, right? You can make 5 attacks like that, and they get 5k. They get 5k for the turn. Or you can do the other skill, which is you can Soul Blast 2 cards with the same name as this unit, and then discard a card as well. And then this unit stands and gets plus 5k and loses a drive. Now these aren't exactly once per turn, so if you can somehow get, well, you can't. But if you can somehow just keep on doing this, you can do a lot of attacks, right? You can do a lot of attacks, and that can be pretty scary, right? That can be pretty scary. In doing so, though, because it has a bunch of name requirements, we are running 4x of basically everything. And yeah, that's pretty much, you jam in every single Koti Blaze support as much as you can, including this ride line, because he's at least 15k. Also on your opponent's turn. Cool. But yeah, you jam it in, and then you hope for the best. All these Koti Blaze supports do something, but not too insane. You are 4 short though, so I just ran the dual nation support that you get in the festival booster. This one's okay, right? You get 5k. You soul charge 1. You could soul charge a Koti Blaze card, and then that will help you in standing stuff. And you can also retire something, which is not that relevant, or you can call something out, which that could be nice. That's a CB1 effect too, so pretty cool. And you might not know this, but Koti Blaze does have a PR. It's not exactly Koti Blaze PR. It does work for everything else, but all of its effects seemingly work very, very well with this ride line. So you look at the top 7, you pick a card from there, and you can perform one of the following. So you can either put into Soul, you can put it into your hand if it has the same name as the Vanguard. And then the last effect is 3 effects. If your Re or Soul has the same name as the revealed unit, you can just call it. And that's that. The rest of the Koti Blaze support is pretty straightforward, I think. They just help the deck out, and you need to run 4 of it. So not too much to go into, unfortunately. And honestly, I'm not too crazy deep interested in this deck. So we're going to move on to the next one we have is Lucia. So a lot of people are definitely hyping this one quite up because it's Lucia. Honestly, don't know how insane it is, but it seems alright. The first off we have is the new Venus Lucia skill. This one does require you to run the old Lucia to get the full effects of its first skill. It does give itself 5k, but if your opponent is grade 3, it gives your front row 5k, which is really good, right? Really good, but you need to have the old Lucia in your soul. But the second effect is where, you know, the good old Lucia stuff happening. Energy Blast 3, discard a card, or put a card from your hand to your soul, and then you can call from your soul different grades, grade 3 and lower, and then call them to the Reguard circle. So you call like a grade 3, 2, 1, and 0 out, and that's like a free field, right? Isn't that really, really good? That's great. And then when it attacks, you can suck in 2 of your Reguards and put into your soul. You draw a card, and this unit gets 5k. And if your opponent is grade 3 or higher, you get a critical as well. So pretty scary Vanguard attack, but of course, that just kind of entices your opponent to just guard all that. So pretty straightforward, I guess. Pretty straightforward. Your Vanguard is not going to be the biggest thing. It'll probably be like a Rising Dragon or anything like that. But yeah, let's kind of look at the new supporting. It's basically this. If your Vanguard's clan is Pale Moon only, this unit is a Pale Moon only as well. And then when you play this on the Reguard circle, if your Vanguard is Pale Moon only, you can put a card from the drop zone and put it into your soul. So just nice additional consistency buff. And the last effect just kind of makes this big during your turn. If a unit was put from your soul into your Reguard circle, this unit gets 5k, but if your opponent is a grade 3, it gets 10k instead. So you hit some nice numbers, but it's never going to beat like Rising Dragon becoming huge, right? You're still running the old combo where you run the old order and to make the extra attack, but because Venus now sucks in things, you can run some weird support. So you can run Babetsu, right? So when something else gets sucked in, you can counterblast 1 and then just call a card from your hand, and that makes a 5th attack, right? That makes a 5th attack. But then also you can run Gomon. So you can like suck this, and you're not limited to just sucking like Silverthorns. You can suck this guy in, and then counterblast 1 and just make the last 3 attacks of Laqueer with Guard Restrict. So I think that's pretty good. I think that could be pretty nice. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. These are basically the flex slots, and then just like we run the new Laqueer. I only run one of the old Laqueer because she's basically a dead card once you've sucked it into soul, in my opinion. So you might as well just run 1. If it goes to damage, cry. If you're very scared of it going to damage, run a 2nd. It's not the end of the world. But I think once you can easily just search it in, put it into soul, and call it a day. Right? So only running 1, but you can easily ramp it up to 2. Right? The next deck we have is Sacrifice Glass Grand Dogma. This is actually my most interested deck in the whole set, to be honest. It looks so meme and jank that I actually want to try it out. The idea behind this deck, and I think it's not really going to work just because how fast the format can become. But the whole point is that you have this guy called Sacrifice Glass. He's a funky looking dude, right? Funky looking dude. You basically get a lot of energy. You try to amass a lot of energy, and then you spend that energy by doing crazy things. So first off, it's at the beginning of the main phase, for this turn, you get a skill, which is when your opponent's units get retired from the Reguard or the Guardian Circle, you energy charge 1. That sounds really crazy, right? And then the second effect is that when this, at the end of the battle that this unit attacked a Vanguard, you energy blast 4, and then you look in your deck or hand or drop for a Grand Dogma, and you write it as Stan, and it gets plus 15k and drive -2. And then, if you road, your opponent may draw a card. May. And Grand Dogma's skill is pretty cool. So, this skill is, at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, you pick one of your opponent's Reguards and retire it. And then, if your bind zone has 1 or more Grand Dogma cards, so this card specifically, you pick another Reguard on your opponent's side and retire it. And then if you have 2 or more, this unit stands. So that's crazy. You get multi-attacks, right? But how do we get those 2 cards in the bind zone? Because there is a clause here that says when this card is put into the bind zone, not via its own effect, it just puts the drop. So you can't cheat it. So what is the last effect that puts this in the bind zone? So at the end of the turn, if your bind zone has 1 or less cards of the same name as it, so basically 1 or less Grand Dogma cards, you pick a Sacrifice Glass from your soul, and then you write it as rest, and then if you road, then you put this in the bind. So it takes a couple of turns for you to be able to stay on Grand Dogma. It's like making a ritual and then breaking, I guess, the glass of the world for, Grand Dogma. She looks really cool though. She's like it's like that. Is it the Super Medusa from FGO, or it's like kind of like a Cloud of Darkness? I don't know. But yeah. So it takes a couple of turns for this to come down, and then the whole point, I guess, of the deck is to try and make it so you have enough turns for this to go down, because the deck itself allows both players to draw with certain cards, and then you draw more and draw more by using a lot of energy. So ideally, the game will get to a point where you can start playing this down, and then you can start staying on a Grand Dogma, and then restanding it, and all that. I mean, that sounds really cool, but I think in a tournament, you're just going to hit 25 minutes and you both get a game loss, right? That's how it is. That's the reality. But yeah, I think it's... I honestly really like this deck, even though it's pretty meme. The order that comes along with this, it's... You counterblast want to play it, and then you activate whatever the skill equals to the name of your Vanguard. So it has 2 skills here. So if you're Sacrifice Glass, you give your opponent this following red text effect. So all their regards and all the cards in their drop zone lose their continuous and auto abilities, and they can't gain them. And then they can't move themselves to the regard or Guardian Circle, right? And then you pick 3, or your opponent picks 3 cards and calls them out into empty regard circles. So it just, you have to flood the board so you can retire it. But that's not all. For every 3 cards that you and your opponent has, 3 regards, sorry, you draw a card. So you can draw 3 cards from that. So again, extending the game time. Second effect of the order is if you're on Grand Dogma, if you haven't rode this turn, you can activate Persona Ride, and then from your drop zone, you can pick any number of cards with different grades. So basically 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's the max you can pick. That doesn't have a heal or over trigger, and then you put them back into your deck and shuffle. So obviously when you reach a Grand Dogma main Vanguard, your deck is likely gonna deck out, or it's depleted so much that you can now just put back cards so you can continue playing the game. Alright, that's just how it is. You're pulling a crit back, and then like 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is, back into your deck so you don't deck out. So pretty cool. Like, the main gimmick of the deck is pretty nice. You have other supports as well. So you have this grade 2 where if you're in the front row regard circle and you're on Sacrifice Glass, when your Sacrifice Glass attacks, you retire 1. So this helps you retire a lot and get a lot of energy. And then if your Grand Dogma grade 3 Vanguard attacks, gets 10k. So obviously this will get a lot of power, but if you're on Grand Dogma, this thing will get like insane power, right? Persona Ride, then probably double attack, like 10-10. That's like a 40k dude. Then you have this grade 1 where it gets you back your order. That's the first effect. Or you can play the order from the drop zone. And then the second effect is that at the end of the turn, you can Energy Blast 5 and draw a card. So you'll just get a bunch of energy, and then Energy Blast 5 at the end of turn, you have a bunch of these on the board, and you draw a card. And that's how you continue living and not dying. Yeah. And then the other cards we're putting in, so running 2 of this Dual Nation card, because it can allow you call stuff from your soul. And then, yeah, it's pretty nice. You get to retire something too if you want a CB1. And then you have the grade 1, the new grade 1 we're getting, come into play, Energy Charge 1. But then at the end of the battle, this boosted, right? If you've Energy Blast of 3 or more in one go, you can retire this and draw a card. So it can kind of help you draw more. And then lastly, we're running some Cyclers. So these Cyclers, yeah, I guess Soul Blast 1. Kind of can draw you a card, put it back to the bottom deck so you don't deck out. But it can also help you call out important cards later on. Alright? So, very cool, very cool. Next we have is the Undercover deck. I keep on thinking this deck is like a Dark States deck. I guess the art just looks very Dark Statey, but it's Keta. It is the only Keta deck, I think, this set, if we don't include the V-Spro stuff. But yeah, this is the Keta deck. It's pretty much another one of those decks where you try and put in as many named cards as you can, in my opinion, just to thin out your deck, and there's like no downsides in doing so. So basically, I just stuffed in every single Undercover card. The only Undercover card I do not put in is more of this Ride line, and then I run 1 less of this grade 3, just because it's like the least good, right? It's the least good. But this is a 5 attack deck. What this grade 3 does, Madarian. So if you have 3 or more undercovers, right? 3 or more undercover. What's this actual? This set order, right? 3 of this set order. Let's just put it this way. You will get all your undercover cards get 5k, so they get big boost. Big boosty is pretty cool. This undercover base thingy comes in at grade 2, so it'll be like grade 2. then your grade 3 turn, and then your Persona Ride turn. That's when the earliest that this will activate. It looks at the top 7, and you can pick one card and put it under here as like a gauge. So an undercover gauge. It doesn't even have to be undercover, but you can only call like undercover stuff. So pretty crazy. And this can be played from the drop zone as well. So if you draw cards, or if you draw this in the early game, you can discard it and then just play it from the drop zone. Nice. This other effects of this is that the Act Energy Blast 3. So you look at the top 7, and then you can pick as many cards in those top 7 as the number of empty set orders that you have. So let's say you have 3 set orders and they're all empty, right? So you can look at the top 7 and then pick 3 cards from there and shove them under there as an undercover gauge. They can only have like 1 each though. That's a nice way to compress the deck. And then the last effect is that when it attacks, you counterblast 1, and then from your undercover gauge, right? Well, you can pick 2 cards from the undercover gauge and then call them out, and you make a call them in the same column, and then there's your like 4th attack, right? So pretty cool. But then you have the Obstigate here. This is old school Obstigate, Keto only man. If he's in the gauge zone, so if he's under that like set order, you Soul Blast 1, just call it out to the center back row slot, and then when he's there in the center back row slot, if your Vanguard is undercover, you can attack and it gets 10k. And then also, if it's in that center back row slot and it attacks, if your Vanguard is undercover, grade 3 or higher, and then your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, if your Regard attack hasn't done a drive check yet, you can Soul Blast 1, and then this does drive checks with a drive -1. So it's a very convoluted way of saying does 1 drive. And then at the end of that battle, this unit goes to the bottom of the deck. So you're going to have to search him out again and put him in, and then... But yeah, that's how you make your 5 attacks. That's how you empty out your gauges, and then that's how then your Madarian can keep on replenishing those gauges and have good times, and then you'll always trigger ride. The only undercover card I'm not playing, by the way, is a Selgion, just because this helps you rush early. From grade 2 onwards, you'll always be playing an order, so this will always activate. And then by the time, like, in the late game is when you start losing the 5k, but that's when you just make a full board of undercovers anyway, right? So I feel like Selgion is just a really, really good card to put in. It gets power, it can rush, and then just... With this deck, I feel like you will want to rush a lot, just to push your opponent high and call it a day. Yeah, that's pretty much undercover. It's pretty interesting. You get like 2 undercover bases, right? I'm pretty sure you, like, from the ride line itself, you get 2 of them, so you literally just need to just hard draw a 3rd, or just mulligan for like 1, and I think you're like good to go. So the only Stoi care deck, I guess, we're getting that is not collab is this another manga deck. This is Stauhirhaja. I don't know how to say the name. I'm pretty sure people get mad, but this deck is also a deck that I kind of like. So this deck is all about these orders called scriptures, right? And they all have some funky effects. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty cool. This one, it gives your opponent's Vanguard minus 3k until the end of their turn, and then you can Soul Blast 2 and give your opponent's Vanguard -1 drive. And this doesn't matter if they rewrite their Vanguard, it gives it to the player. So their Vanguard's like 10k with 1 drive only. That's pretty fun. I mean, that's pretty, well, not for them, but for you, right? And then the other scripture that you have here as well, you can call a card, a grade 3 or lower card from the drop into the Regard zone against plus 5k. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, you get once per turn. If this card stands via an effect, for the turn, this unit gets a crit. So obviously not as cool as the other card, but the idea is like you play both of these scriptures each, like, because with Stauhirhaja, Stauhirhaja, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, with the Vanguard, you can play 2 scriptures. So the main effect here is that when you play a normal order, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, for the turn, you can play another order, but it has to be a scripture. So ideally, you're just playing 2 scriptures per turn. And then the other effects are, the first one's a con skill. So during your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or higher, when you play a scripture, your front row gets 5k. So I don't think this stacks, right? It's just a 5k of the front row whenever you play a scripture for the turn. But the second effect, well, the last effect is when it attacks, counterblast 1, and then for each scripture that you play this turn, you stand a card. So you can make 5 attacks with plus 5k power, and then you have a persona right on top. That's pretty cool, right? And then your opponent, what, is like minus 3k. So yeah, that's pretty nice. You're hitting some really, really good numbers. Now, luckily for us, it's not actually that hard to build the rest of the deck, because the only thing you need to run is the chili crit. Make sure you run this guy because he's the coolest. But then the rest of the deck is just a bunch of stuff that supports Stauhirhaja. So this card, right? This fantastic looking, is it a mosquito dude? Bug guy? I'm pretty sure he's a guy, right? It looks at top 7 for a scripture. You're putting 4x of this in. This guy, you put it into soul, and you look at top 7 and you grab a scripture and you make soul, so it's good. So you're putting 4x of it in, and then this flower girl, she can get scriptures back from the drop zone, and then there's your energy blast outlet, so you're putting 4 of it in. Dang, it's so easy. It's so easy, right? And then this bug, what kind of bug thing is? Yeah, this has an effect, so it just gets it gets power based on the number of scriptures you play, so it's gonna be a beta. But if it's in the front row circle, Regard circle, when your Vanguard gets attacked by your opponent's Regard, if you can retire this guy, and then that Regard, you choose it, and it loses power equal to its original power. So defensive stuff, I'm a huge fan. We're putting 4x of it in, and we just have enough slots for 2 of this Dual Nation support, which just allows you to look at the top card, and you can put on top, mill it, and then you can grab orders back, or you can call out stuff. So overall, deck built itself. You have so many orders. Play the scriptures every turn, make them feel bad, and then just bash their face with multi-attacks. Big support, big like. Dimension Police is back, and yeah, it's Chris's favorite deck. Interested to see how he builds it, but this is how I'll build it for now. Gimmick of this deck is you want to just, well, you have this new thing. These are called bases. It's actually the same base as the Galactic Hero base, but it's not the same, but it's the same wording. So funnily enough, some of the cards that do work with Galactic Heroes or B Heroes, I think we call it in English, does work with this. So you'll see soon. But yeah, the advantage of the Dimension Hero guy, Dayusha, is that you can technically always ride grade 3 first. That's just how it is, right? If you're, the gimmick here is if you have died. Is this guy? Yeah. So, die battled, right? If this guy is in the soul, if your Vanguard is a Die Dragon, and your opponent is grade 2 or higher, and your soul has a Goyusha, which is the starter, and you have a Die Lander and a Die Mariner, you can discard or you can put a card from your hand to the soul, and then you ride from your ride deck a Die Yusha, right? So, pretty crazy. Die Mariner is this dude. Die Lander is this guy, and we know Die Dragon, and then Goyusha is the starter. So that's how you can superior ride. How do these guys go into soul? Well, this is where the base comes into play. So this base, you can rest it, and you can energy charge 1, and then you grab a GN Robo or Dimensional Robo, a grade 2 or lower from your drop zone, and then you put into soul. So you want to do this like every single turn because it's a grade 0. So you'll just always be able to, from the moment the game begins, you'll be able to play this down and start getting everything going. And then the second effect is you can Energy Blast 2 and rest this, and then you can call a GN Robo from your soul, grade 2 or lower, and then call out to the Regard. So you can basically make free stuff. All the GN Robos, all the Dimensional Robos, they have effects when they come out. So like this guy, when it comes out, you know, it gets 2k, and then your opponent can't instep. That's pretty good. This one is when it comes out, your opponent's grade 3. The Vanguard, your Vanguard's original critical becomes 2. So that's really, really good, right? Die Lander's effect is it gives your Vanguard in itself like plus 5k. And then Die Dragon, this one's kind of funky. So when it comes out, and you're until the end of your opponent's turn, this unit gets red text. So when your Vanguard gets attacked, you can retire it, and then your Vanguard gets plus 15k, and then it also gets a plus 5k. So it's a 15k beat up, but it's nice defensive power. So I don't mind just kind of spamming this and just being very, very tanky. But yeah, this is pretty cool. That's why I did. I mean, I said I'm a sucker for defensive cards. 4x of this, and I haven't explained Dayusha's skill, right? So we might as well. So Dayusha, apart from superior riding, the first effect of Dayusha's skill is that, so when this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1, you draw a card, and then if opponent's grade 3 or higher, you can pick cards of Jigen River in the name, different cards with Jigen River in the name, and give them all 5k. So for example, if you have 2 Die Dragons on the field, and then like a Die Lander, Die Mariner, and Die Battles, you can give everything, including your Dayusha Vanguard, plus 5k, but not the second Die Dragon, right? You have to pick one. And then the second effect is that when it attacks at the end of the battle, right, that it attack, you can discard it, you can put a card from your hand to your soul, and then you can stand this unit, and then for this turn, this loses drive -2, so you'll be attacking with nothing. But if you don't have a Goyusha in your bind zone for this turn, and you Persona Ride this turn, you can put a Goyusha from your soul into the bind zone, and this gets +1 drive. So for one of your Persona Ride turns, you can get an extra drive, but you have to pick carefully, right? You have to pick carefully. Other cards that kind of work with this deck, we do have the Die Lady. She's basically a beater. If you have 2 or more bases, it gets 10k. And then when this card comes into the Regard Circle, you can counterblast 1 and just search a deck for a base, up to 1 base, and then add it to your hand. So this is how you get your last few bases. And then the other support that aren't Jigen Robos, one, we have the Dual Nation support. So this will allow you just to kind of put things, kind of look at the top X. Oh, that's something. Look at the top X of your deck, put a card in your soul, and then if you looked at 2 or more, you can counterblast 1 and do one of the following, which is pick a card from your soul, a grade 2 or higher from your soul into your hand. So this can just grab you Persona Rides and help you do that every single turn. And then otherwise, you can grab a set order from your soul and add to your hand too. So probably you're going to do it more for the first one. But then also this dude this is a B hero. And this only requires you to have cards in your base, right? Just have bases. So when it boosts, if you have a base in your order zone, it gets 2k, so it's like 10k, and then at the end of the battle, you can put it into soul and countercharge 1. So it's like a better Bulbamine that is supposed to work for B heroes, but because it doesn't care that you need to have a B hero Vanguard, you just need a base. This works too. So we run 2 of that to kind of help our countercharging and our soul as well. But I don't think the soul's the biggest issue, but yeah, just to help our countercharging, and it has a nice funky like extra 2k, right? So pretty cool. For this deck as well, also run like 4 PGs, because one thing with Brandgate is that because you're running so many of these set orders that rest, this Blitz order is insane. So you Soul Blast 1, and then you pick one of your cards that's getting attacked, and for each order card in your set, for each rested set order in your order zone, it gets 10k. So you have 4 bases, and you're going to be using the skill every single turn. You're going to rest all 4 of them every single turn, ideally. This is a 40k shield. This is just so good. It's too good to not use, in my opinion. So we run 2 of these, and then because of that, we can just run 4 normal PGs. But yeah, this is just... And then lastly, we have Archite. Archite, we're going to end on a high note. Archite is another one of the decks that seems to be really buffed, and people are hyping it a lot because it's just really insane. The new Archite is really good too. So this has got the same name as the old Archite. And then the second skill is Act, once per turn, Energy Blast 2. And then grab from your drop zone Kaijus, up to 3 Kaijus, and then just put them into your order zone. And then the second effect is that whenever a Kaiju card... Is it Kaiju? I think it's Kaiju, right? In English. So whenever a Kaiju Regard comes into the field from your order zone, you can... put 1 card with the same name into the drop zone, and it gets 10k. This isn't limited, by the way. So, it's not limited by your opponent being like grade through anything. It's just whenever a Kaiju comes out, you can pump it with a lot of power. And then when it attacks the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and call 2 cards from your 2 Kaiju cards with different names from your order zone and just call them to Regard Circle. So 5 attacks, and then you can pump them up with this thing. And this again doesn't require your opponent to be grade 3. So you can probably rush and put on insane amounts of pressure, and it's very, very scary, right? Just straight off the bat. Other cards that we have included, so the new one here is this Kaiju. This is just if your opponent, if this card's called by your Archite's Vanguard ability onto the Regard Circle, for this turn it gets the following red text where it's, when it attacks, you can counterblast 1, and then if your opponent, you pick one of your opponent's Vanguards, and they get minus 5,000, and then your opponent's grade 3 or higher, this unit gets plus 10k and an extra critical. So you can definitely get very, very scary there of that extra crit. And it also has a con skill where it can't be chosen by your opponent's effects. So these two cards seem to really buff the deck a lot, in my opinion. Right? This adds some extreme extra pressure. You can also, remember, you can use Archive's effect to pump the power of this as well. Other monsters, so this is a new monster as well from the new set. This is some extra shielding. It's like a 10k shield and can bounce a hand by soul blasting. So this one attacks an opponent's grave through a higher Vanguard. If you have a research order, you can get plus 5k. And the second effect is that at the end of the battle, if you have a Vanguard with Archite, you can retire itself and then just draw a card. And then this PR as well is pretty good. So it can call itself out from the order zone by just soul blasting 2. But then the second effect is that when it comes out on the Regard Circle, you have 2 more research orders. You can grab a non-sentinel card from your research and add it to your hand, and then discard a card. So it basically means you can Persona Ride. You can keep on Persona Riding, because then your research order, don't forget, just grabs a kaiju from the drop zone and puts it in. I'm pretty sure this thing is a kaiju, right? There's kaiju right there, even though she's not a kaiju. She's a pretty looking girl, right? Because she has kaiju with the name, you can grab it there, and this can kind of cycle it and get you Persona Rides when you really need it. Again, like I said before, the Blitz order is just insane, right? This is just crazy. So we're running 2 of this, but also because the research does search for your PGs. This is not the super good PG. This is like TD level PG, but it's a monster. It's a kaiju. So it works. We're adding this in the deck. And then also just the twin cast for extra effect. So that's pretty much the deck, and pretty much why I think like everyone's just hyping this up. It's really strong. All these Shoujo Doji and Archite, main 2 big hitters that might be like popping off really heavily. We'll see soon, right? Nagoya is soon. But the rest of the deck, some of them seems pretty fun. Some of them not so much. We'll see how it goes. That's it for the video though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon, right? Bye.